needs a network? Who even needs a political party? I mean, if you're the person that the people want, then by all means, you're going to go and do it. You know, Oliver Anthony, the singer that has just exploded and blown away records, debut records for the Beatles or for Elvis. We're going to play a little clip. I want to end the show on him because I get goosebumps every time I hear his music. He's proven that. You don't need a giant record label behind you. You can go direct to the people. And if your product is good quality, if your product is something that people want to hear, if your music, like in the case of him, Oliver Anthony, is something that people want to listen to, then guess what? They will. Same with that Target song. Remember, I got a target on my back, quite literally. Anyway, you know what's going to happen? They're going to say, oh, you know, it's just a fluff piece. Tucker, he can't ask the questions like Brett Baer and the other one, Martha can. He can't do, you know, it's good. Let me just tell you again, I've been there, I've been in the room. I crafted all my questions, but gosh almighty, every single one of them. And by the way, some other anchors' questions as well, just because, you know, I'm charitable and I like controlling the questions. Anyway, I wrote all the questions, but there was like a whole committee that was there looking at the questions, talking about the questions. These questions were written so precisely. And so the problem, I would say, with the argument that Tucker's going to give him a fluff interview and Brett and Martha are going to be real, you know, strong interviewers. Well, no, they're not. Everything's in a prompter. They're going to be reading questions that have been gone over and over and over and over. Hopefully they're, you know, quick enough on their feet to respond. But these things are so orchestrated, right? The RNC's in there saying, okay, well, this person gets 30 seconds here and you get a rebuttal here. It's all orchestrated. We even had like lights, red, yellow, and green to help them know when their time was up. They only get so much time, and we were trying to do it politely and not have to cut them off. So they get the yellow light and then they get the red and they had to know to stop. I mean, again, it is all contrived. Whereas I have a feeling, granted it's edited, but I have a feeling that the Tucker's is not going to be so contrived. And already, let's go back to the promo. You see that they are covering a lot of different ground here. I'm going to play the entire thing for you. Let's take a look.
Why aren't you at the Fox News debate tonight in Milwaukee?
Well, you know, a lot of people have been asking me that.
When you say there are people on stage who shouldn't be running for president, who do you mean? Whatever happened to Mike Pence? He's out there attacking you. What is that? Do you think Epstein killed himself sincerely? Do you think we're moving towards civil war?
It's good to have you at Bedminster. It's very nice.
I love it. You're saying they stole it from you last time. Why wouldn't they do the same this time?
Oh, well, they'll try. They're going to be trying. Mitch McConnell is trying to get senators to impeach me. Crooked Joe Biden is so bad. He's the worst president in the history of our country. I don't think he's going to make it to the gate, but, you know, you never know.
It started with protests against you, then it moved to impeachment twice.
Right.
And now indictment. Are you worried that they're going to try and kill you? Why wouldn't they try and kill you, honestly?
They're savage animals. They are people that are sick.
So do you think it's possible that there's open conflict?
I can say this. There's a level of passion that I've never seen. There's a level of hatred that I've never seen, and that's probably a bad combination. We're doing this interview, but we'll get bigger ratings using...
Oh, how did we miss the end of that? You know what? We're going to go back.
Why aren't you at the Fox
We're going
News
to go
debate
back, guys. This is
well,
how you know
a lot
it
of
is
people have been
live.
asking me
Let's
that.
go back to the very end because he promised some ratings there. Let's
You're
listen.
using, then probably the debate. We're doing this interview, but we'll get bigger ratings using this crazy forum that you're using than probably the debate.
I bet they will. I really do bet they will. And you know what? Ratings are important to Donald Trump. He loves ratings, and he also likes substance. And I have a feeling they're going to have a substantive conversation in a way that you just couldn't possibly have on that debate stage. And I think it's going to be really interesting. I mean, the fact that he asked him, do you ever worry, you know, somebody's going to knock you off? I mean, that's kind of like this no-go territory that you don't really want to ask somebody. But he's asking, and he's going to ask a lot more. Donald Trump, as I said, he does notice ratings, and he even kind of tried to throw it back in Brett Baer, who's going to be hosting tonight, anchoring that debate, in his face pretty recently. A couple months ago, they sat down. Brett finally got his interview with Trump, and well, this happened. Watch.
Have the best polls I've ever had. People see this stuff for what it is. It's a political witch hunt. It's a continuation.
More independent voters watch Fox News than any other TV source.
A lot less than used to watch it.
They do watch. Those voters usually make up.
Oh, gosh. You know what? That was like the best moment in the whole thing. I was actually surprised they ran it. I was sort of surprised they ran it. It's true, a lot less. And you know what? There's more competition, and there's more competition, including from sources like this and Twitter, where they will be in just a short time. You know, it's pretty classic because Tucker's running at 8:55 Eastern time. Fox is on at 9 p.m. Eastern time. So good luck, Fox. Those executives, I guarantee. I mean, it's sort of funny to me, and maybe I'm too close to it, right? So I kind of am getting my own little kick out of it. As for the country, you know, people are like, well, shouldn't he be debating? It's like, guys, he will win that debate. He's won every other debate. And yes, we should be asking him a lot of questions, but I don't know if you need to do it in that forum because I don't think anybody really there is quite up to the task. Perhaps with the exception of Vivek, just because I think the guy's actually seriously smart and probably a very, very good debater. But the rest of them, I mean, even DeSantis with all his Harvard and Yale degrees has not struck me as the smartest bulb or the brightest. I think that's the expression, bulb in the room. But there's a lot at stake right now. I'm a little bit later in the show going to tell you what I would be asking about because, you know, it would be a lot on the economic stuff. It would be a lot on sort of this Ukraine issue, which is the elephant in the room. And Fox is going to have to be very careful on this because they have a very decided position. And I look at it just purely from an economic standpoint. I question the amount of money that's being spent, given that we are now spending, just about as much as we spent 20 years in Afghanistan. I mean, that's a lot of money, right? And then you get the Hunter thing thrown in, further complicating it. I do believe that at some point, the president is going to have to take to the stage and deal with those very real questions because it doesn't look good. It certainly doesn't. The financial records I have been through thus far, courtesy of Comer, by the way, hats off to him for getting those records from Treasury. I mean, 170 SARS, suspicious activity reports. Who has those? And yet there's this like, we have to help Ukraine. We have to help Ukraine. I'm not debating Ukraine right now. By the way, Prigozhin, he was the Wagner Group leader. He is apparently dead. That news came out today. He died in a plane crash. Apparently everybody on board died. And it doesn't necessarily surprise me because you've seen a lot of people that were not doing what Putin wanted suddenly die. A couple generals have died recently and under mysterious circumstances. And you kind of knew it was game over for the head of the Wagner Group because he tried to launch a coup against Vladimir Putin. And that really wasn't going to fly. I was kind of shocked he was able to go live off in Never Never Land because, you know, that's one that I didn't think Putin was going to. And look, they operate, I'm not in any, I mean, it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. By the way, that guy was a pretty horrible guy, the Wagner Group leader, because he committed some atrocities in Aleppo in Syria that are just beyond anything you could even imagine. He did so at the request of Vladimir Putin. Anyway, so he's gone, but these things are going to come up. And I suspect that Tucker is going to be pretty direct in his questioning. And there's a chance he could very easily rattle Donald Trump. I mean, he certainly rattled Pence the other day, right? Who can forget this? And by the way, this is the sort of status quo view, right? You have to be pro Ukraine. I just say, like, why can't you be pro-Ukraine and like actually exercise a little bit of financial restraint? Because this is kind of crazy, and we do actually have problems here, guys. But this was that sort of infamous soundbite that, unfortunately, for Mike Pence, may have destroyed his political future.
I'm sorry, Mr. Vice President. Have you? I know you're running for president. You are distressed that the Ukrainians don't have enough American tanks. Every city in the United States has become much worse over the past 3 years. Yeah. Drive around. There's not one city that's gotten better in the United States. And it's visible. Our economy has degraded. The suicide rate has jumped. Public filth and disorder and crime have exponentially increased. And yet your concern is that the Ukrainians, a country most people can't find on a map, who've received tens of billions of U.S. tax dollars, don't have enough tanks. I think it's a fair question to ask, like, where's the concern for the United States in that?
Well, it's not my concern. Tucker, I've heard that routine from you before, but that's not my concern.
Oh boy, oh boy. Oops, we've got Rudy Giuliani who got his mugshot today. You see that on screen right now. We're going to get to that in just a second. But before we do, you heard what Pence said, right? And I don't think he meant it the way it came out. I can't imagine he meant it that way. I mean, he did care, and he does care about the American people. But that's what I'm saying. Like, Tucker's actually a pretty good interviewer because he totally flustered the guy. And he lost all track of sort of what he was saying and what he meant to say, because you certainly wouldn't say, I don't care about the American people, for goodness sakes. For gosh sakes, you're running for president of the United States, mister. You were vice president of the United States. But this is why I do think that tonight's show is going to be especially interesting. And I think there's one that's going to be way more interesting than the other, with their programmed questions and the rules from the RNC, this, that, and the other. Hey everyone, Trish Regan here. If you enjoyed that clip, please do me the favor of subscribing to the channel. Just hit that little subscribe button right over there. Did I do that right? Not quite, but you know where it is. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so that you get the alerts, and I'll see you back on the show.